Recording here as a backup as well, so I'll throw it over to you guys. Dustin or Manny, feel free.
Hey Paige,
Hey,
how's it going?
good. Very wet
Staying
today.
out of the rain. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So, coming off last game for you guys, Kansas City, a really tough opponent. You guys lost, but is there some things you can take from that, playing them tough like you did, and keeping it a close game against arguably one of the best teams in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I want to credit to our players and our coaching staff that we were able to play a new formation with people playing in different positions that they've never played before. And it really is a building block for us. I don't think we performed amazing. I also think we can move on and build from that formation. And we're growing as an organization, we're growing as a team, growing as a club, and you can see that every game you kind of see something different and something that we're adding and continue to build. So we can build off that. We now play different formations, and we're getting used to each other still. But credit to the staff and for us to executing the game plan.
And just having Katie back this season, you guys two veterans, what's it like playing alongside Katie, and how do you feel you guys' partnership is going so far this year?
Yeah, she's great. She's a lot taller than me. She's a unit. She's been really helpful with organizing our back line. She's always talked and she's helped me grow in that area where, they say the best defenses never have to defend because they organize everything in front of you. And I think we are continuing to build on that. We're both very honest and vulnerable with each other, but also who we play alongside with. We're just really focused on getting better every single day and helping each other out. So I think you'll continue to see our partnership grow for sure.
And last one for me, I just wanted to ask you about Rebecca. She just got here, I know, but what have you seen from her so far, and how do you see her helping the team out?
Yeah, she's great. She's very technical. And fit right in with the style of play we have. And she's very versatile. She can play multiple different positions. And honestly, like she's a very young kid, doesn't speak a lot of English, but right away she fit right in. And I think it's going to be exciting to see her grow into this organization as well.
Thanks, Paige.
Yep.
Yo, go ahead.
Hey, Paige, can you hear me?
Yeah. Just I was up loud. Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, sorry. Everyone keeps saying I'm quiet. That's like, no,
Yeah.
I've got that from a few people. Um, I was just wondering, like, we've seen a lot of different performances, and part of that is maybe because of the personnel change, especially like in the back line and the wing backs. So I was wondering if there's been anything in terms of like consistency that you feel like has been across all five games that the players are like, okay, this is the thing we're hanging on to. Like I think just looking at the last game, it was quite a good performance, but the best things were on the defensive side, right? Whereas maybe other games, it was more on the like on ball actions. So what do you think has been the most consistent thing across the five games for you?
Um, we want it to be on ball actions. Obviously, last game was a little different because it was a new formation. I would say we play pretty football. But what we're missing is like our urgency, our grit in front of the goal. I think last game was a one-off from that, whereas we did focus because we allowed 3 goals from Angel City. We did focus on being more organized defensively and build from that. But now it's kind of going back to how we want to play and have our identity and play better if we need that formation again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And like, 2-0 doesn't always look great, but in terms of non-penalty XG, that was the best performance anyone's had against Kansas this year. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, our
There's all,
XG was higher actually.
yeah, that's what I mean. There's always going to be trade-offs and
Yeah.
like a very good off-ball performance. I hear you on like, okay, now we pride ourselves on the on-ball actions. On that note of like wanting to like you said, play pretty football, have that as the identity. What are the things that maybe like we don't see when it comes to developing those that you and the team and Fabrice are? Like, what are the tricks?
Oh,
I know it doesn't happen overnight, but like, what are the drills? What are the videos that really help develop that?
yeah, I mean, from start to finish in training, one, we have to be turned on, focused. Every single day we have a different passing pattern, and if you don't get the rotation or passing pattern right away, like it is bad. Okay. You know, we just hold a high standard for each other and very detail oriented from start to finish. And I haven't been coached like this in a while. And it's really refreshing, but mentally I'm exhausted after trainings. Like we have to be locked in and like ability to solve problems and play the right foot and check at the right angle. And it comes from the top, but now we also are trying to hold that standard for each other. And it's a really competitive, good environment, and it helps that we're super deep and we could literally start probably one starting 11 and
All right, everyone, we're here joined by Houston Dash head coach Fabrice Gautrat. I'll go ahead and kick things off, and then we'll take questions here on Zoom. Fabrice, off to the first of a two-game homestand here on Friday against Utah. How's the team navigating preparations for that match?
Yeah, overall good. Obviously a tight turnaround from our last game, especially traveling, but overall in good spirits. I think the biggest message, if you look at the first four games, it's sometimes been a tale of two halves. And I think overall, the overall performance, I know it wasn't the result we wanted, but in terms of the overall performance from both halves, I think you could tell there was consistency in at least what we were trying to do and how we performed.
Thank you for that. We'll open it up to questions here on Zoom. Dustin, go ahead.
Hey, Fabrice.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I know you talked a couple weeks ago about you guys are still kind of getting into what your lineups looks like, what your best 11 looks like. How do you feel that's going after these last few games? And do you feel you're getting closer to your first 11 and your key bench players and things like that?
Yes and no. If you look at, we had quite a number of players who were starting in previous games not start in these games for various reasons. Could have been injury, whatever it is. So yes, but I also think there's still room for continued evolution. So yeah.
And just Natalie and Avery, know they've missed the last two games. How are they looking this week? And what do you think for them on Friday?
Yeah, I think they're both really close. I think those two are obviously big pieces in what we're trying to do. So yeah, we're optimistic. We can, hopefully at least get one of them, if not both, but we'll see.
Thanks, Fabrice.
Yeah, thank you.
Theo, go ahead.
Hey Fabrice, how you doing?
Good, Theo. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Looking forward to Friday. I was just talking to Paige about consistency, whether that's sort of in the 5 weeks of like what performance metrics are like consistent, because we've seen, like you said, different personnel, some of that enforced, some of that not enforced, different formations, different kind of game plans. But what are maybe the consistent metrics or consistent elements of the team that you've seen or that you want to see?
Yeah, I think you've seen in various games, second half a very different response sometimes to the first half. And so what we talked about was, why is that? And if you look at it, sometimes those can be external drivers, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So we've talked about more, we need to flip it more and be, okay, what KPIs are we going to have from an internal motivation standpoint that we are going to be consistent in, where we're not relying on, a score line or a halftime talk or different adjustments or subs. So I think that's been, when you say about consistency, I think this team is learning what it really takes. Yeah, we can sit here and play good football. We can do these different things, but like it takes an enormous amount of, and it's a whole collective. It's not like to keep a clean sheet. It's not just your back line and your keeper. Like you need everyone. And I think you saw a real commitment from the entirety of the game to defend, and I think you can't build anything off without that. I won't make a comment about calls or not calls in that first half, but I think if you look at it, like the game was completely in hand and then something happened and then we just had to adjust and we had to move on with it. But for me, what I was really pleased with was there was an internal motivation from the group. So I want to see that be consistent moving forward. So
in terms of, again, looking to Friday, does being back at home and maybe playing a team that has had a not such a great start to the season, does that kind of put the emphasis back on you in kind of like a nice, in terms of that external motivation, right? Like everyone's got to think, okay, this is a game where we can on ball have that motivation to maybe dominate.
Yes, I also think on the flip side, I think it's very easy to be like, okay, we're playing in this game at home, etc. We got to win right away. Like, I think the biggest thing is focus on the performance. Focus on the performance. Don't put any added pressure that we don't need to. Like, hey, let's just be consistent with our performance. I want to see two halves that are internally driven, 100%. I mean, they're a team that also likes the ball as well, so we'll see how those things pan out. But 100%, like, yeah, we have a way that we want to play, but as you know, you have to adapt sometimes in this league. And I think you saw that in last game. So yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Of course, we want to get back to who we are and how we play for sure.
Last one for me, kind of in terms of Paige was also talking about she's really enjoyed the intensity of the passing rotations in training. I love the way you're talking about this idea of motivation, external and internal. Are there any other like drills or educational pieces that you're putting into the training sessions that you feel like is to stimulate that motivation?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm seeing is we need to continually grow in everyone says communication, but the specificity and the intensity of our communication. And so constantly holding people accountable. So one thing we started doing passing patterns, before, and especially beginning of season, like I was holding them to a really high standard. Our staff was holding them to a really high standard. But now it's like, okay, you said it, like last two good ones, like okay, if it's to your standard, then we move on. If it's not, we keep going, And so I think now it's putting more ownership on them and having them kind of steer more. And it could be simple things like a passing pattern. It could, even today, we did a lot of nonverbal communication. So just understanding each other, where you want the ball, signals, etc. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, yes, there's the tactical piece and the technical piece, but constantly thinking of ways where they are going to grow in their communication and the ownership of this entire process. So yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Fabrice. Appreciate you. Cheers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Diego, go ahead.
Hey Fabrice, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
All good, can't complain. So we saw Diana get a couple of minutes against KC and get a start against Angel City. Overall, how have you been feeling about her performances and her time coming out of that injury from the beginning of the season?
Yeah, look, we all know her skill sets for sure. Yeah, I think T is doing really well. She's training well. She's chomping at the bit. She's ready to go. She's still a very, very big piece. And at any given day, she could be, a starter for us. So obviously the last game we decided to go, with a different, skill set on the 9. But yeah, she's doing well. She's doing well. I think the biggest thing is how do we continually get into the attacking third to utilize her skill set? So I think we've been a little bit inconsistent with that. So I think that once that happens, then I think you'll really see her kind of get into a groove.
Thank you.
Alrighty, anything else for Fabrice before we wrap up here? All right, thanks for jumping on. We'll have this and additional items available later today.